Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Arts to Hearts podcast. This is your host, Charika. How are you doing? I am so excited to be back on the podcast. I've had a great time. I'm really excited today because I will be leaving for a vacation tomorrow, and I haven't been on a vacation for a very long time, and it's a very special event because I am traveling with my friends. It's to one of the most wonderful locations and beautiful places in India, which is Kashmir. I can't wait to travel to the mountains, be with nature. I'm going to carry my sketchbook and my gouache and watercolors, and I'm just dreaming about painting so many trees and plants and skies and clouds, and I just love the cold, and I just really want a relaxing time and good time with my friends and more time with my art and just art for myself more than anything else. And yeah, that's what I'm really excited about. After a really long time, I feel like I have this excitement of this vacation, which is very, very exciting for me. In today's episode, now, let's say, today's episode, I have Elodie, whose work I actually discovered from the India Art Fair, which is one of the biggest fairs in Southeast Asia. And Elodie is a ceramist and an illustrator who's based out of India and France. So she's a French woman who's now living in India, and she's currently living in Himachal Pradesh, which is why this, I think all of this coming together, how we spoke about her life into, she moved into the mountains a couple of years ago. She runs this beautiful studio called Atelier Lal Mitti. You can find all the links on the show notes of this episode. And we had such a wonderful conversation about her journey as she found her interest in ceramics as an artist when she was almost 28, 29. And from then to now, how she's moved countries, now, living a suburban life in the mountains, running her own beautiful studio, showing her work at India Art Fair and all these major platforms. And it's such a wonderful conversation because we also had very flip side, how she said she wanted to have a city studio, and I said I wanted to have a countryside studio, and very organic, like always, transparent conversations. I'm so excited, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. So let's get into this episode. Let's dial in and connect with Elodie. Hi, Elodie. How are you? Welcome to the Art to Heart podcast.
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. First, let's hear from you. Elodie, would you like to introduce yourself and who you are and what you do to everyone who's listening to this episode?
Okay, sure. So my name is Elodie. I'm an artist. I work mostly with ceramics, but not only. I also do a lot of drawing. I am French and I live in India now. So I live in the Himalayas in Himachal Pradesh.
Yeah. And you have a beautiful family here as well, and you have a wonderful, beautiful studio at your Lal Miti as well. Isn't it?
So we work. We have set up a studio, me and my husband. My husband Reyes is also a ceramic artist.
Oh, wow.
So both of us, we co-run this studio called Atelier Lal Miti. Atelier is French for, it means studio. It's a French word. And Lal Miti, it means red clay. It means also, Lal means precious. So it's precious clay, red clay. And so we have a small production of ceramic tableware that we collaborate on. But we are each artists, so we each also have our own practice as artists.
How long have you been living in Himalaya?
So we moved when my daughter was born, so almost 5 years ago now.
And where were you before then?
Before that, we were in Delhi.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I lived in Delhi for some time. Yes.
So how long?
Reyes was working in a school for really long, a Vasant Valley School in Vasant Kunj.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was arts teacher there.
Oh,
And so after we met, I lived in Delhi for some time. We got
okay.
married in Delhi also.
Oh, that's so
Yes.
nice. Okay, tell
Yes.
me something, Elodie. I'm very interested in also, we will definitely go into your work and which I absolutely love. I'm so glad I found you via India Artist, which
Thank
we
you.
recently did. And I love the display of your work. You know, it felt like, and when I saw your work, it felt to me like drawing sculptures. Like these felt
Thank
like
you.
little drawings that come to life. And while I was going through your work and your website, I saw the same terminology and was like, oh my god, yes, that's exactly what it like, felt and what I was feeling at the moment I saw your work. But we'll talk about that. And
Okay.
first, do you want to share your journey about your work and your website, everything? Like, I feel like this traveling of France to India. Now you're based in India, you're especially living in the Himalayas, you have this beautiful studio and all of that. I just wanted to touch base and listen to how, when did you come here? Impact of India, because your work also has a lot of impact of your life in India now. I just
Yes.
wanted to
So
hear.
sure. So I grew up in France, and I went to school in France. I did a first set of studies in France. I actually went to university to study English literature.
Okay.
So that was in
Yeah.
France, and then I became a translator,
Okay.
English to French.
Okay.
So that studies led me to move to the UK, where I worked as a translator for a few years.
Okay.
And after a few years of working as a translator, I was working in a organization, and it was a lovely team of international colleagues. That was really nice. But my work started to be a bit less fulfilling in the terms that it was no longer very creative. So I started to look out for ways to fulfill that creativity. And I started to take ceramics classes in a community center, adult learning
Yeah.
center. So 1 year I did one class, a weekly class. The next year
Okay.
I thought I want to take 2 classes a week. So I went more and more. And I had a
Okay.
lovely teacher there. She is an artist. And she told me, oh, I can imagine you would have done really well at art school, in art school. And the moment she said that to me, it all came back in almost like a flash. Because when I was 18 years old, it was a dream I had. I had this dream that I would like to go to art school after finishing
Yeah.
my, my what equivalent of 12th grade.
Yeah.
Um, and I was doing very well academically. So I was pushed by family
Yeah.
and teachers to actually continue more on the academic route. And so I dropped the idea of going to the art school, and I did studies, and I almost had forgotten until she said that,
How old were
this
you by
teacher.
then?
I was in my late 20s by then,
Oh
like
wow.
28. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So after she said that, it happened that where I lived, so I lived in Cardiff, and it
Okay.
happened that in Cardiff there is a very good school for ceramics.
Okay.
In the Cardiff School of Art and Design, there's a very strong ceramics department. I didn't know anything about it, but she introduced to me this idea,
Okay.
and then she helped me put together a portfolio, and I
Okay.
applied for the course, the BA. I
Okay.
applied, I went to the interview with my little portfolio of drawings and few sculptures that I had made, and a letter of recommendation from this teacher, and she's called. And I went there. I didn't know what to expect. They asked me a few questions, and after a while they made me wait outside the room, and after a while they called me back and they said, we'd like to offer you a space on the program. I
Oh
thought it was the
wow.
most beautiful day of my life. I, and I was so happy and excited that I was supposed to take the bus back home because I lived a bit far away. I was so full of adrenaline, I guess. I had to walk back, so I walked the whole 1 hour back home.
Oh wow.
It was so exciting. Yeah.
Oh
So
great.
then I started on the BA. It was 3 years it was a very, very good course with wonderful teachers. And during the first year of the BA, Reyes came from India to do his master's attachment.
Okay.
So he was in another department. He was with the master's, and I was in the BA. But obviously, it's a small department, so we met there. And then I went to India for the first time. I had never thought in my life going to India ever. Like I had not.
Did you have did you ever aspire to be, or did you like any fascination at all before you met him?
Nothing at all. I had no clue, but I didn't know anything about the country. I think my knowledge was just limited to going maybe a few times to an Indian restaurant. That's all I knew nothing. Yeah. And then I went for the first time to India. It was a big shock for me culturally.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was very interesting. But also, as an artist, when you go to India, you're also bombarded with so much visuals, so much things you have never seen in your life. And so that was very fulfilling also. So I had my first trip to India was it was like a roller coaster. Like one day I was feeling. First trip was, I think, 3 weeks or a month.
Okay. And what places did you visit?
So I arrived, he was working in Delhi. So I stayed in Delhi for a week, and he had a lot of work at the time. So I was going out and doing visits on my own. But often I was crying at the end of the day because too many events would happen to me. Taking the rickshaw, it was very difficult for me.
Yeah.
Now I'm fine, but initially it was quite a challenge.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And then we went to Rajasthan, and that was like super because.
Oh, that would have been a treat for you.
Yeah, and I think also as a French person, Rajasthan is your kind of image of India that you have in your mind. You think India is like everywhere in India is like Rajasthan. Obviously, India is so complex and varied, but we grow up with some cliches. So yeah,
we all do.
But it was beautiful to see all these palaces, and that was amazing. Yeah.
Do you think your life in India has a huge impact on your work today?
It changed the way that I view colors.
Okay.
I don't see colors the same way. I used to think that certain colors have to go with other colors, and in India I've seen such clashes of colors. Now I know everything can go together. So I approach color very differently. I am not I don't overthink it, colors. And also nowadays, yes, it still has a big impact because initially I was interested in objects. And I referenced some objects from India or some differences, between countries, like how for example, one very simple example is initially I was very fascinated with the water tanks, the Syntex tanks.
Yeah.
Growing up in Europe, you never see water where it's stored, where it comes from. You just open the tap and you know it's going to come. You never think it's not going to come. So I got fascinated with all these kind of differences, like of domestic environment. And nowadays I'm working on different projects, but something that is influencing me is I was, all the in the Hindu religion, how rituals are very visible. How all these like you find lots of temples, even like around a tree, or so it's very visible in the landscape, urban and even rural. And the fact that rituals are also very visible and accessible, that has a sort of influence right now for me to look at the divine, not in a religious way, more like in a maybe closer to something pagan. But I am very influenced by all the rituals that I can come across because we live in a small village. And sometimes you find, for example, on the way to somewhere, you'll find there's been some puja or something on the road itself, like with strands of wheat or grass, or using a lot of the natural things. So that's very, at the moment, I am a bit influenced by that.
Oh, wow. And what brought you to Himalayas then?
So this village where we live is quite a special village. It's called Andreta.
Okay.
It's near Palampur.
It's near
And
Palanpur.
yeah, very close to Palampur, maybe 20 minutes away from Palampur.
Okay.
So in this village, there's an artist colony that was funded a long time ago by a lady called Nora Richards. She was an Irish woman, and
Okay.
it was at the time of the British. She had
Okay.
come with her husband, who was posted in India. I think actually at the time they were in Lahore because it was before partition.
Yeah, before partition.
Yeah. So after partition, she had to leave and go back to. She had to go back to the UK. And but India was very much in her heart. I think India made a very deep impression on her.
Okay.
So I think after her husband passed away, I think she decided to return to India. And eventually she was given some land, a big estate of land. I think it was an old tea estate.
Okay.
And she took this land, and eventually she made a house for herself. It was in this village, Andretta. Little by little, she also gifted the villagers some land.
Land.
And she decided she was into drama. She was a playwright. She was writing
Oh, wow.
plays. So she was an artist, and she
Okay.
wanted to bring an artist community
Together.
I think she wanted to recreate what she had known at the time when she was in Lahore.
Yeah.
So she got this. She founded like an art community, and she gifted lands so that artists could come and make their studio and work from there. So at the time when she was alive, she invited Soba Singh. Do you know? He was the painter for the Sikh Guru. So in Andretta, we have a small museum called the Soba Singh Gallery. So there's a gallery there, small, yeah.
A village having a gallery in India is such a big thing.
Yeah. So she also invited, who was there? She invited Guru Charan Singh, who was he's considered as the first studio potter of India.
Okay.
And also other people like Frida Bedi, who is Kabir Bedi's mother, Ram Kumar, and B.C. Sanyal, and other artists.
Yeah.
So they started this, but it was a long time ago, so the facilities were not the same as today.
Yeah.
You know, it was difficult to build, and so they used to come, but for maybe short times, summertime. And but for Guru Charan Singh, the potter, his son came also and settled here with his wife. So it's Mini Singh and Mary Singh. They are still in Andretta. And they founded the Andretta pottery, which is a very old pottery in India. They do very nice slipwork, decoration, tableware. And their presence and the pottery brought a lot of people also to Andretta.
Yeah.
And nowadays, so the place where we are, me and Riyaz, it's on the land of the society, so the Woodland Society, which was created by Nora Richard, that Irish lady.
Oh, wow.
So now there's a kind of almost like a new generation coming and building and making new places for arts.
Oh, wow.
So so Reyes came to Andretta initially. He attended a workshop at the Andretta pottery.
Okay.
And he loved it so much. Like many people who come to Andretta, they fall in love with the place. And
oh, wow.
Then he managed to get this house where we are now.
Yeah.
And later on, when we moved, then we made the studio.
Wow,
So
that's you have really convinced me to come here this time.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, come
I
and see
have
us.
to. Yes. That means you are not alone. I mean, that means you have a creative community there.
Yes.
Other artists, other creatives.
Yes, this couple, Minnie and Mary, they have been very inspirational for lots of people to come also because they have lived here for so long and they have never, you know, even they stay in the winter time, in the monsoon, for them, it's not a secondary home, it's their home here.
Oh.
So that's inspired us that we could also come and make a home. And there are other artists here, painters, printmakers, musicians. Yeah.
Oh my God, I have to come now. I didn't know about this. Oh
Yes,
my
it's
God, thank you so much for sharing.
oh good. I'm glad.
Okay, tell me something now. Um, how was your, now you also like, you were in your, let's say, early 30s when you graduated and then you started figuring out your life as an artist. Then you moved to India, and
Yeah.
India is not one of the easiest countries, let's say, to be an artist. Especially, I'm sure by the time that you were doing it, things were very different.
Mm-hmm.
How has your experience been as an artist working and with taking the work out there in India? And your thoughts when you thought like, okay, this was one thing when you thought you wanted to be an artist, okay, that's what you're going for. But then also, taking a plunge of a whole creative life, making a career, a profession, a life out of it. How was that for you?
Yeah, so I think initially, when you're an artist, I think it's not easy to support yourself just through your art. So you got to
Yeah,
do something else, right?
yeah,
So so before Riaz was a teacher in a school, and I was doing a bit of freelancing. But when we arrived in Andretta, we thought, let's start to collaborate on this production. It's not really a production; it's a very small production, of tableware. So that's over the years, it's gained in popularity,
yeah,
and now it's generating enough income that we can support ourselves like this. And now we are trying to achieve that balance where our
great.
pottery is also supporting our artwork,
Yeah,
because artwork sell or not sell, it's really
yeah,
it's not very easy to plan that. So
yeah,
we that's how, like, for us, the pottery that we make together, it's a way to earn a living,
yeah.
and our artwork feeds our soul, more or less,
Yes,
like that. Yeah,
absolutely.
we enjoy working on the tableware, there's no question about that.
No,
but
absolutely.
it stays in the area of the decorative and the functional.
Yeah,
And when you are an artist, you
you
aspire
just
to
want to
more
express
because
it.
you have other things you want to express through
Yes,
your art. So
yes.
with
I think this is such
that's
a good
yeah.
take because I think a lot of artists, as we're always given, we share that this one picture or that you're. I think we all have so many different ways of dealing with how we want our life to project or how we want our life to look like. And I think this is such a good balance where you create your practice in a way that it gives you safety and you create a space for yourself, then it also has space for your expression and being yourself and creating only for yourself and then thinking about anything else. And I think
Yes,
this is
you're
very
right.
common with ceramics because a lot of people, like with ceramics, people expect functionality first. I think a lot of ceramics who I've had friends, like, especially I think when people are not exposed to a lot of ideas, um, it's it's challenging for a lot of people to go beyond that bound and then take the control of their own expression.
Yeah, I think what's nice with what we've achieved so far is that clay is the material for everything we are doing. So
Yeah,
clay we are using to make this tableware, and clay we are also using in our
for
artwork.
yours.
So
Yeah,
obviously you have to explain to people that they are not the same, because also when you price things, they are going to be on very different price
yes,
ranges, right?
yeah,
But but people understand once you start
yeah.
explaining. Yes.
How has your experience been on showing your work in India? You recently showed your work with India Art Fair, which is amazing. Because like India Art Fair is one of the leading art fairs in India and
Yes.
Southeast Asia. How was that experience?
Oh, the experience of the art fair.
Yeah,
It was fantastic. I was so overwhelmed by the response also, and so grateful that I could display there thanks to Galeriski.
yeah,
Um, and Sunita, she gave a lot of trust because I had never shown with her before. So
yeah,
and I was very lucky that the wall was also at the in the space was at
Exactly,
the
exactly.
beginning of the fair.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think it's also people would see it with a fresh mind because there's so much to
yes,
see in the fair. It's very
yes,
overwhelming.
yes, yes,
And also I got to hear from the staff who worked at the booth, were
yeah,
staying there all day throughout the day. They shared with me a few stories of how some of the people had responded with the work, and it was very, very touching because some women were talking about what was postpartum depression
yes,
for them for the first time. They had never
yes.
expressed that, so it's very, very touching to know this.
Would you like to talk about that body of work also? I was going through your work on your website, and I firstly loved your postcards from India. I think that's what it's named.
That was the first one of the first projects I made because it was for my graduation in school. So I was very influenced by having traveled to India. As I said, this
Yeah,
initially the how it came through in my work was the colors and trying to express how I felt in the city with so many different architecture that they would be so different. So um, I think the concept of living in a colony that was very foreign to me, so that made an impact on me. And like I said before, the water tanks, some of the objects that you see in daily life were very new to me. So in this work, I made a small series of abstract buildings, colorful buildings,
yeah,
which could be viewed from all the sides. So all the sides were different, and you can walk around, and it kind of changes as the same way as when you walk around, and it changes around you. So yes, that's a very. I still very like. I like this work still very much.
yeah. I
Uh,
love that work.
yeah, and it's interesting. I don't think I could do it again because I think I made it with these fresh eyes of
Yes,
being in
yes,
India for the first time, and now that
yes.
I'm more used to it, I think I would be maybe isolating some elements, not
Right.
try to make a landscape. Maybe.
Yeah. Another series that I saw your postpartum. Let's talk about that, and then we'll talk about the Tikka series also. I love both of
Okay. Okay.
Can you show the postpartum series when they got there? We've been showing that for a couple of places. She did, I think, Selfie finale also. Do you
Yes,
want to
that's
talk about
correct.
what that series is, especially when it has something to do with, having a child, postpartum, a childbirth? I really want to
Yes.
know how that work has come to life and what was that.
Yes, actually it's very interesting process, and now that there's been a gap in time, I think it's also easier for me to talk about the process.
Yeah.
So, I 5 years ago I gave birth to my daughter, my lovely daughter,
Yeah.
and the actual process of giving birth was very difficult. It was quite something quite traumatic as an experience. And subsequently, I also developed symptoms of postpartum depression. So after 2 or 3 months after she was born, I started to have these symptoms, and already the body has gone through a lot, and
Yeah.
so much change is bringing to your life. And I was going through a lot of difficulty inside. I think what's very interesting with this postpartum is that on the outside, nobody
Look.
could have noticed anything.
Yeah.
Even me, I look at the pictures from that time and I just see a very happy Elodie on the pictures. But I knew that inside I was really struggling. So physically, it's a struggle to recover from childbirth, and also mentally because I had to deal with some of the
Which
traumatic scenes from the giving birth, and also new symptoms that were emerging. And so I had no choice but to try to help myself on my own.
okay.
Because my daughter was born in France, and I was going to travel with her back to India at 3 months of age. She was.
Okay.
So I actually went to a doctor thinking I could get some medical help, but when you travel, they don't really want to give you these antidepressants
And
because
yes,
the dosage have to be refined. You have to have a continuity with a practitioner. So they said to me, we can't. It's not good to. We can't give you any medication. So I tried to then help myself. So I used visualization. I used also making mandalas.
Okay.
So it sounds a bit like a cliche because you hear very often mandala is very healing. Okay.
Yeah.
I used to think, okay, fine. I don't know what that means. But
Mm.
something called me to draw mandalas, and actually it was one of the initially the helpful things I did, because no matter how I felt when I was drawing the mandalas, I at the end I would see, okay, it's you everything is very confused and you're going through a lot of difficulty, but the mandala is showing that deep down you are fine.
Yeah.
So I hung to that hope that deep down I am fine, because some of the symptoms I had, I thought I was going crazy. Basically, I thought
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and because of the symptoms being not easy to talk about, I was feeling a lot of shame.
Yeah.
I was hesitant to talk about it, and eventually I also gathered the courage to put some few keywords on Google, and I found a book that could help me a lot.
Which
I
was
also
that?
went, huh?
Which was that book?
So the book is called "Dropping the Babies and Other Scary Thoughts," and
Okay.
it deals with this. My postpartum depression symptom was very specific. It's called scary thoughts or
Okay.
unwanted thoughts, and it's you have these moments, and usually it's when you are with the baby. So say you're carrying the baby in your arm, and you see an image in your head that you're going to harm the baby.
Oh my
So
God.
it's very disturbing. So for example, I would walk with her in my arm, and we would pass next to a bookshelf, and in my
Okay.
mind I was imagining I was going to hit her, hit her head on
Oh
the bookshelf.
God. I'm
So
so sorry.
in the one doctor explained to me that although these thoughts are very scary, uh, they never materialize. Like, you're never going to
Yeah.
act on them.
Yeah.
It's well documented that mothers, they never act on these thoughts. So that was
Okay.
reassuring for once,
Yeah.
because it was not. It's not like I wanted to do it. I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
almost having one vision of doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And now the way I see it is that actually it actually meant the opposite that what it sounds like. It sounds like somebody that doesn't want to be a mother, or somebody doesn't want to have a baby, but it's actually the meaning of this thought is very different. It actually means you care so much that you're so scared to
Yeah.
do something
So scared.
wrong, and that it
Yes.
plays with your mind, because
Yeah.
the responsibility you feel is overwhelming, and
Yes.
it's hard to cope with it.
Yeah.
So yes, so I could also deal with these thoughts eventually by actually addressing them in a way that instead of trying to suppress them,
Yeah.
because actually when you try to suppress them, that's what that make them come
That
back more and
really.
more.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to suppress them, you then go more into the thanking the thoughts for being there, for showing you that you care so much. You have to address it in this way.
Okay.
So the whole experience was quite difficult, and it's also very long because it takes almost 1 year, 2 years to recover
Yeah.
completely.
Yeah.
And I also decided to seek the help of a holistic healer practitioner
Yeah.
who uses different methods, and and through talking to her, I started to want to do work.
Yeah.
I wanted to make work about this.
About this.
So I manifested intentions.
Okay.
So for example, I would concentrate and then listen to inside, and I would
Okay.
come up with something like, I want to express fear, for example.
Okay.
And based on these manifestations of intentions, I started
Okay.
working with clay.
Oh my God.
And the ultimately the whole mural postpartum, it's
Yeah.
all these. So it's 13 intentions manifested in clay that
Okay.
address different aspects of dealing with the postpartum depression, from the physical angle as well as emotional as well as mental.
Oh my God. This is so amazing. Tell me something. When you would put an intention in you, like say you talked about fear. Um, would you like these 13? These were one of pieces like you went and you made something and you were like, okay, this is it. Or did you kept on working on that intention again and again and then until like what I'm also trying to understand is in this process, like let's say we work on a work. Let's say if you're making a body of work, you have a vision in mind. And I think intention setting is as artists, I think we all do that every time. Even before we have something in our hands, we already have something that subconsciously is back in the back of our mind. Especially people like you said, you're a very visual person. And I think because you're a visual person, your scary thoughts felt even more scarier because you could see them. And I think I recently experienced trauma and my mom passed away. Since then, I think I get, because a lot of times when we see things visually as visual persons, like we even imagine, it almost feels real even if it isn't.
I think you're
So
right. Yes.
my question is like, because this also had a very emotional big impact on your work, it's coming from that. Would you make one work? Let's say if you set an intention and you would make a work based on fear and you would let that go. Or these 13 works are handpicked from other work that you've also created.
So I manifested these intentions and I did one piece per intention.
Okay.
And I was trying to cover a lot of ground, so I didn't stay with one because I think I wanted to show many different things within this postpartum idea. And but I also used drawings,
Yeah.
and eventually I also went back to text after these 13 pieces were made. I looked at them again and I wrote a little text for each of them.
Yeah, and as a display also you had like audios, your
Yes,
QR codes that
you could scan a QR code and then access that content on your phone.
yes,
Yes.
yes, yeah,
And I think what I was trying to do with this text is to make it more explicit because it would be too abstract if you just. The mural is absolutely valid as one piece without the text, but during my I had some resources that really helped me to recover and to feel better and to just cope. And these resources, they use a lot of materials which are women have given a testimony. They have opened themselves. They have shared something very difficult. And that helped to make me feel that I was not alone or not crazy, or
yeah,
it helped me so much that these women had shared some content of their
yeah,
own experiences. Therefore, I wanted to give something back like this, where if
yeah,
somebody sees my mural and reads my text, maybe they feel like, oh, I was not crazy then, or I'm not crazy now. Like I'm not
yeah,
alone. Yeah.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
so amazing. I think that is one of my favorite works. The mural was one of my favorite works from the art fair for
Thank you.
sure.
Oh, thank you so much.
Um,
Thank you. There's a
okay,
lot at the art fair.
yeah, I think a I I think what I really like about your work is the earthiness of that first the material because I love clay as a material. It really grounds you more than anything. And I think
Yes.
like I said, they felt 3D drawings. Like
Yes.
they were raw, they were organic. Uh, Even though they were structures, they did feel like structures. They felt very
Yeah.
fluid because they were drawings. I think, and also
Yes.
because they had. I think what I really liked as a viewer when I was seeing that mural was it gave me space as a viewer and it didn't take a lot of space from me. I think that's what I
Oh.
really enjoyed. As when I view, it gave me space to become a part of it more than like
Oh, that's so nice to know this. Thank you for sharing this. My intention was that it would look like a three-dimensional drawing, and you had this
yeah,
impression, so that's really nice. And I
yeah,
think maybe what helps you also is that there's quite a lot of negative space in that mural.
yes,
So that may be
exactly.
where you find that you can
Something.
fit also. Yeah, that's very nice.
Yeah,
And I
Yeah.
don't know if you noticed, but on the bottom right corner, there was my signature also in 3 dimension. Did you see that?
Yes, yes, yes. We have such amazing pictures of your work and share those with you also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's talk now on a lighter note. Let's talk about the Tikka series also. That's something also I
Yes,
really like. Can you talk
yes,
about what that's for?
yes. That's also so. You would have noticed by now that all my work is very narrative.
Yes.
It's also very contextualized. So the context of this work was after my master's degree in ceramics. I took the position of artist in residence in a boarding school in England, in the countryside.
Okay.
So for 1 year, I was in this environment, which is quite special because I was not familiar at all with the world of boarding schools, but it's quite an insular environment. And because it was in the middle of the countryside and it was surrounded with these green fields, it was like a little
So,
community.
yeah.
Yeah. And I struggled a bit in that year because I lived on site and I had a car, but I didn't really like driving. So I was feeling a bit isolated at times.
Yeah.
And there was also in the boarding school, it was a little old-fashioned, I would say, and it was very there was a lot of hierarchy between the teaching staff versus the people who worked, for example, in the canteen or as a maintenance or in the garden. There was
Okay.
a bit of like a up and down socially. There was quite a marked divide in the way
Okay.
people were considered, and this struck me as being it struck me that it was so visible. And in the canteen there was a massive cart full
Okay.
of cups and saucers, this very
Yes.
blank,
Yeah.
I don't know, porcelain or very the typical
Very
collectivity sort of
Yeah.
very blank canvas cup and saucer. And there was, on the one hand, you'd have the people who were taking care of the object, washing it, serving the tea, etc. And on the other side, there would be the people who were drinking that tea, and
Yeah.
there was two different worlds there.
Yeah.
So I used this idea of cup and saucer as a canvas.
Okay.
And then I projected lots of my stories that happened to me in that year onto these cups. So each
Okay.
cup became a little narrative of event or feeling or mood of that year. So,
Oh
for
wow.
example, one cup was about the countryside, the actual living surrounded with the
Yeah.
nature. One other cup was about feeling lonely. One other cup was about going for picnics at the beach, and etc., etc. Just mixing stories of my year on these cups and saucers.
Oh wow, this is so fun and interesting. You know what I also really like? I love you know what, now that we've spoken about two very different projects that you had, like your postpartum series and your Tikka series, like they have very different experiences that you address. Something is very, very more serious and personal, even though this is, but it's not like, it still has a range of different emotions. Let's say. But when,
Yes.
as a viewer, we see there's certain lightness also your work brings into someone. I think even in the subject matter, I think how your work delivers that is also very interesting. Like,
Mm.
even though you're talking about something as serious as this or some of your own difficult experiences, but when
Yes.
I view them as a viewer, they don't bring that to me.
Yes.
Like
I think
it's
it's
almost like it takes away,
yeah.
like it absorbs in itself.
Yes, I think it's because of two reasons. If I try to analyze, one is the use of color. Even
Yeah,
if I may talk about something very dark and difficult,
yeah,
I'm using color as a way to.
yeah.
I
Darken that up.
associate meaning to color, but I use color. And another one is maybe because the emotion, I try to ground it into something very maybe specific or common. So, for example, it might be a fish, it might be I don't know, an object, pair of scissors, or something that is very easy to relate, and it's not an object that brings any necessarily
Yeah,
any fear or any strong emotion.
Yeah.
So maybe this is because of that I used very colorful work, and then also these common elements, common symbols, and then it means that the result is not looking scary or dark
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. My last question before we go into the rapid fire. Tell me something, a lot of like I've always fancied. I think I really want to live in a countryside at some point. I live in a city right now, but I think we a lot of us always fantasize that idea, but it's equally scary also. Like because I think someone who's lived in the city for so long, it's the
Yes.
isolation, the idea of, and it's not just isolation in the sense of being alone. It's a lot of, it's very hard. I feel like it's very hard because the conveniences that we've had an adaptation
Yes.
of being in a city versus the things that you really need to work hard for while you live, in a countryside, in the mountains, far away places. I just wanted to know how has your, I'm very interested to know how your life looks like now
Yes.
in the village. And how has your experience of being in different parts of the world, living in different parts, and then now being here, and your um, your work in all of that together into one? How does that look like? Like,
Okay, I'll try to address all these different aspects. I think I was also, before I moved to this place, I always only lived in the city. I was really much a city girl. Like, there's no doubt about that. I was always in the
oh,
city. So initially, there were some things living here that I was scared of. So, for example, I was scared of the dark because the nights
yeah,
are very dark.
yeah,
And it's interesting because after 5 years of living here, not only I am not scared of the dark, but I cherish it.
wow,
For example, if there's too much light, somebody is putting too much light at night, I think this is not good anymore. But before, I would have liked more light, probably.
yeah,
So that is because I understand more about the importance of respecting the land for
environment,
the animals, I think.
yeah,
And when it's dark, you have a whole new wildlife that needs to be for it to be
yeah,
dark, right? So you start to also, I think you see yourself that you are sharing the space with the wildlife. So you want to also respect that more.
yeah,
Before I was not considering these things.
yeah,
I think I have become much more conscious about the environment and much more scared of what we are doing to the planet since I live here,
yeah,
because I see the rubbish going into the
yeah,
landscape. So that troubles me much more than it used to trouble me, because I think when you are in the city, you kind of block it out from your mind.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Somebody
you're
collects
living
the
in a
rubbish, you
concrete
don't think
world.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. It goes in the
So
dustbin, and then we don't know where it goes. We don't see where it goes
that's it.
until,
Out of sight, out of mind. But here it's
yeah,
in sight, so it's in mind, I
yeah,
guess. Yeah.
yeah. How does your life
So
look
like
like
that.
today?
Say again?
What does your life, a general day, a week look like for you?
My life. That's a
Yeah,
big
your life
question.
is like, your work, like, your studio practice, how do you manage, how do you make the work, your studio
Right.
outlet, like living
So
in,
although we live in this countryside, we don't have this, we have a very different rhythm than if we were in a city, because
okay,
we have the studio at home, so we don't have to
yes,
commute anywhere.
yes,
We work when we want to work, which is very nice. So, for example, you want to start early in the morning, you rise
yeah,
early, or you can also do late nights. It's like we work hard, but we work on our own terms, which is
yes,
very nice. Yeah.
yes, amazing.
And so we are very busy with the pottery. Very like often, it's a lot of the day spent with the pottery, but more and more we're trying to make more time for our artwork.
Yeah,
So now I think we have reached a place where we're trying to achieve a balance. Yes,
yeah,
in the way we manage time.
amazing.
But
So,
it's also interesting to live in a countryside, in a village like Andretta, where there's always visitors. Sometimes I think our social life is more active here than it was
really?
in. Yeah, I know, it's funny because also
Right.
we people travel longer distances, so we see them for longer also. You don't drive for 1 hour to only stay for 10 minutes. So
Yes.
you spend good quality time with visitors,
Right. So
friends who
how,
come. Or, yeah.
like, um, I think like something that's really great about your life that is you have an access, like you have a creative community that um.
Yes, it's very, very nice. Yeah. Also,
Amazing.
we are not very far from Dharamshala, and on the Dharamshala side, there are also some creative
Very
people who
creative,
live there.
yeah,
Yeah. Mm.
yeah.
So
Oh
there's a
wow,
nice little
that's,
community here. Yeah.
yeah, love that. Okay, thank you so much, Elodie. I had so much fun talking to you. Let's
Thank
get to
you.
the rapid fire.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Are you ready?
Yes.
I know you were scared.
Yeah, a bit.
So, I'm sure you will be good. Okay, so are you ready? Let's do this.
Yes. Let's do it.
One thing you want to convey through your work in the art.
I want to tell stories.
What's that one word that describes you the best?
Me in one word. Uh, Funny. It's not
If
really a
you
good
could,
description of me, but here we go. Well, you said very spontaneous.
yes, no, let's go with that. If you could have a studio anywhere in the world, where would it be? This is interesting.
It's funny because I think I would say a city. So
Really?
yes, I don't know. I think also if you
I
think
think we
about
all chase ideas like, you know, what we have, that we want something more, and then what we
yeah,
don't have. Tell me goodbye. I'm really interested.
why a city?
Yeah.
I have I think it's because I've got the feeling of like some environment which would be very buzzing around me, like I imagine myself in some kind of penthouse with lots of windows overseeing a busy city.
Oh,
But I'm
wow.
very happy here also.
Yes, why one studio? We can have multiple.
That's true. Let's
You
dream.
have one here, and let's get you another soon. How about France? Where would you want to have it in France?
I think in France, I don't know in France. I come from a city not very big. I love the coast. I love the seaside in France.
Okay.
And obviously, as a
Wow.
city, I think as an artist, you'll probably want to be in Paris.
Yes, yes.
But when I think of a city, I also think about Istanbul. I love Istanbul.
Wow, me too. I
Yeah.
think those cultural references I really like the best part of being in India is about those little details
Yes.
that and inspiration that you get in everyday life that you don't
I
know, like,
think Istanbul is kind of sitting at the crossroad between West and East, and
yes, yes,
that is really, really interesting. Yeah.
yes. Love that. Okay. Who's your favorite woman artist? Any point of time.
Can I say more than one?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I really like the work of Anna Mendieta.
Okay.
It's very powerful. In the ceramics, I love the work of Betty Woodman.
Betty Goodwin, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Love it. This is a little more than one word. But can you share one of your favorite moments as an artist? Something that really made you feel special, grateful for the work that you're doing? Just one moment out of many I'm sure that you've had.
I think as a ceramic artist, I would say every time you open your kiln and you see your work, because it has been
Yeah,
transformed. So there's something sometimes with this getting the object from the kiln that's very, very like you feel very,
surprising.
very happy,
Yeah,
and you remember why you're doing what you're doing.
yeah.
So that way. Otherwise, in another context, I was very, very grateful for the art fair actually recently. Like
Love. Yeah.
to see the work there and in such a beautiful context, and then to have it interact with people, that was really, really nice.
Lovely. Okay. If you were to meet younger Elodie today, what advice would you give her?
Don't stop worrying. Don't worry. Everything is going to be fine.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, lovely. Um, shout out to an artist who's currently loving on social media.
For me, it's I feel very inspired right now by a page. It's not an artist, it's a page, but it's managed by an artist, I believe. It's called Maternal Art. So it's yeah, go and check it. It's very interesting. It's got a lot of work from the point of view of the maternal. So not like it's more than motherhood. It's a relationship to motherhood also. It's I find the work very, very interesting because it's very away from all the cliches one can think of the mother and the mother, like the mother and the child. It's really, really very wide and very, very thought-provoking and sometimes also funny. It's very, very interesting.
Oh wow, I have to check it out. Okay. Last question. Because as an artist, as a woman artist, what's that one piece of advice that you would like to give to anyone who's listening to this?
One piece of advice?
Yes.
I think the advice I kind of like the main one is whatever you do it with integrity, I think.
Yes,
because if it's done with integrity, something's good is gonna happen.
That's so nice of you to say. Yes, I love that advice. Oh my God, Elodie, thank you so much. I seriously had such a good time knowing you and talking to you. It's truly, truly a pleasure.
Thank you so much for all the questions, and it was interesting for me too, because I find a lot of the time when we verbalize what we do, we find also new things for ourselves.
Yes, that's true. Okay, so first, before I let you go, do you have any upcoming projects that you would like us to know about, where we can share for you, where people can maybe support you, and also for anyone who's listening to this episode, where can they find your work, how they can view your work, and all those details.
Okay, I have nothing. I have a few projects, but I can't really talk because there's no dates attached, and so it's a bit up in the air. But I would say the best is to check my Instagram page. So maybe you'll put the link.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, and my website has to be redone. There's like it's what happened during the COVID? Like I think it happened to a few people where your provider has actually shut down. That happened to me, right? So I had something which had shut down, but they actually managed to make it take over by another provider. But everything has shifted in the layout, so everything has to be looked at now. Yeah.
So the best place is you find Elodie on Instagram.
Instagram is the best right now. Yeah.
I will link Elodie's Instagram in the show notes, her work, and a few pictures from the area there also. What do you say?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'll see you soon, hopefully again.
Thank you. Yes, lovely talking to you today.
Same here.
Bye.
If you liked this episode and you enjoyed Elodie's conversation on the podcast, don't forget to maybe leave us a review. If there's something that resonated with you, please share this episode with us on Instagram, all these platforms. And if you think this episode may be helpful for someone, don't forget to share it with your friends. And I will see you back soon in next week's episode. Till then, I'm sending you lots of love. Goodbye. Mwah.